What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. We got a quick one here for you. This is going to be my final mock draft, a first round mock draft for 2024. It's as I record this, it's April 22nd, Monday. Draft is in 3 days, so I feel pretty good about what I put out here. It's on the fantasyfellowship.com. If you guys want to check out the description, or I'll probably post it in the comments, get you guys a link to the article. But it's there for you. Let's hop right into a screen share. We're just going to go over kind of pick by pick and explain kind of what I'm thinking. I did post the screenshot, so if you guys want to check that out and see what's all there, you guys can go ahead. I did some trades in this one, but what we're going to do here is I'm just going to kind of, show a little bit at a time and we'll talk it through. So for me, pick 101, everyone knows it's Caleb Williams. As soon as that Justin Fields trade went through, that sealed the fate, and the Bears are moving forward. They've surrounded Caleb Williams with some pretty good weapons. You got DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. They also added Gerald Everett, Cole Kmet's there as well. They brought in DeAndre Swift. You still have Roschon Johnson and Khalil Herbert. There's a lot of weapons there. So I like what they did for Caleb Williams. We'll talk about their pick number 9 coming up. But number 2 is where the draft kind of starts. And if you look on DraftKings and some of the other betting spots right now, you're going to see Jayden Daniels is the favorite for number 2 at minus 160. Now, Cliff Kingsbury is the OC there. They're going to be running the air raid offense. I think Jayden Daniels can do a little bit of that Kyler Murray air raid type, style offense, the Pat Mahomes offense back from Texas Tech. I'm excited about it. So to me, I still think it's Jayden Daniels. We can kind of flip-flop Jayden Daniels and Drake May, but I think I'm going to lean with the favorite here, Jayden Daniels. And I like the offense that they have there. They still have Terry McLaurin. You got Jahan Dotson. They could use an upgrade, at wide receiver 3, for sure at the tight end spot. Logan Thomas, I don't know if he's there anymore. I can't remember, but they do need a tight end. They brought in Zach Ertz. They also brought in Austin Eckler. You got Brian Robinson there. There's enough there where I think Jayden Daniels can come in and be fantasy relevant right away. So Drake May, I think, is a little bit more of a project, whereas Jayden Daniels at least comes in and for fantasy, he can be your guy, a fringe QB1 kind of thing. So I still like Daniels there at pick number 2. Pick number 3, I'm going to go with Drake May, but man, he's the favorite for pick number 3, minus 145 on DraftKings. If the Patriots don't take Drake May, that means either Minnesota, Denver, one of those teams is moving up to grab the guy. Maybe it's the Giants too. I don't know. But I'm super excited about these top, the second pick and the third pick, because that's where everything's kind of hinging right now. But I think if the Patriots stick there, it's going to be Drake May. If they trade out, that's another team coming up for Drake May. So watch out for that. For now, I'm going to stick with the Patriots. I struggled with pick number 4. I left the Arizona Cardinals to sit here at pick number 4. They still have that one first round. I think it's the 27th overall pick. So they're feeling good there. And I have them just taking Marvin Harrison Jr., the top player on the board. Now, I do think there's an opportunity where maybe the Cardinals trade out of this pick for a team moving up to get J.J. McCarthy. But in this scenario, they stay put. Because if they trade out, there's no guarantee that they can get back up, whether it's with the Chargers or the Giants. They probably like their guys, and maybe they get boxed out of Marvin and Malik Neighbors, and they can't afford that risk. So I left Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. And then at pick 5, we have our first trade. The Minnesota Vikings swoop up to get J.J. McCarthy. They trade with the L.A. Chargers. Chargers move back to 11, and they get that other first-round pick. And there you go. The Vikings need a quarterback desperately. They have Sam Darnold there. Maybe he's the starter for the first month or so. And we see J.J. McCarthy at some point in the fall. But it's a huge deal. Minnesota got that extra first. They send it to the Chargers and get J.J. McCarthy. At 6, I have Malik Neighbors. And I'm open to the Giants going after quarterback here. But I think the need for wide receiver is also pretty large too. You have Daniel Jones for at least one more season. You have Drew Lock, who they brought in. They can still draft another quarterback here if they want. Otherwise, they can take their play at quarterback next year. But at least getting a stud receiver is going to make that transition to the next quarterback even better. So it's hard to pass on a guy like Malik Neighbors. I think he's a bona fide wide receiver 1. And, man, I'm excited for him in fantasy football. Number 7, you have the Titans taking Joe Alt. It's a huge improvement to that offensive line. They've done so many good things this offseason, from bringing in Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard. You still have DeAndre Hopkins there, Traylon Burks. You got Chig Okonkwo. And then you have this nice duo of Pollard and Tajay Spears. So I love the offensive weapons. And I think doubling down on all this for Will Levis is crucial. So getting Joe Alt makes a lot of sense. At 8, there is a rumor that the Falcons maybe are going to get penalized this week for their tampering with Kirk Cousins. I would be shocked if they lose their first overall pick number 8. But if they stay here and pick, I think it's going to be the top player or the top defensive player on the board. To me, that's Dallas Turner. It could be someone else, but I think the money right now is on Dallas Turner. And name a Falcons pass rusher. They need it so bad. So we'll stick with Turner. At pick number 9, the Bears take Byron Murphy, the first defensive lineman off the board here. And I know everybody wants Rome Odunze. I don't know if that pick makes a lot of sense. Keenan Allen might be just a one-year rental, and maybe Odunze can slot in as the number 2 next year. But I also think the Bears have a lot of needs on the defensive side of the ball. Offensive line could be an option too. So I don't know. Odunze is a hell of a player, but I don't know if the Bears do it at 9. So I go with Byron Murphy here, the best defensive tackle, who might even be the top defensive player on the board. Pick number 10, I gave the Jets Troy Fautanu from Washington. The Jets flirt with Odunze and Bowers here, but the need for a future left tackle is large. They did bring in Tyron Smith, but man, he only averages, 8 games a year. And for now, Fautanu can come in and play left guard, can slide to left tackle when they need it. So I think protecting Aaron Rodgers is the priority here. They also, they grabbed Mike Williams. They have a few other playmakers on offense there, so we'll wait there. And then pick number 11, this is where the Chargers traded back and they collect Rome Odunze. So this is kind of the floor, I think, for Odunze. If he's going to be, pick 10, 11, that's kind of where he should go at the bottom. So I like just the Chargers, man. Like, they go and get rid of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams in one offseason. They have to get receiver. And honestly, I don't hate their offensive line as long as they're healthy. I think that's a good group. They could use some defensive players on that side of the ball. They were one of the worst defenses last year, but I think getting Rome Odunze here is a huge win for the Chargers. They trade down, get Odunze, and they also get pick number 23 from Minnesota. Pick number 12, edge rusher Laiatu Latu out of UCLA. And I know the neck is a major concern, but the Broncos need pass rushers. They've kind of overhauled that defense. And I think getting more playmakers on that side of the ball makes a lot of sense. I don't want to see them take Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. here. I think they're a Bo Nix team, but you can't do it at 12. And the Raiders, same thing. I can't see them reaching on Michael Penix here at 13. I have them taking Tyrese Fuaga. They need offensive line help pretty badly, and just prepping for that future quarterback, I think, makes sense with grabbing an offensive lineman. The Saints, I'm going to have them grab the right tackle, J.C. Latham out of Alabama. Ryan Ramczyk, it doesn't sound like he's going to play. He's had some issues with that knee injury, and plugging in a right tackle right away makes a lot of sense for New Orleans. The Colts, I did name a Colts cornerback, please. Quinion is the truth, and at 15% is quite the steal. It's usually, a cornerback usually doesn't go off the board as CB1 at pick 15. They're usually a top 10 pick. So I think this is a really nice value for the Colts, and they continue to build that defense. At 16, you have the Seattle Seahawks taking edge rusher Jared Verse. They need some help pass rushing the ball. They have a few needs here, but when I looked at it, I thought this is a guy that can come in and start right away for them. So I like the edge rusher here from Florida State. The Jags, I struggled with this pick a little bit too, but looking at their secondary, I noticed that's a major area where they need to address. They're rumored to be in on wide receivers, whether it's A.D. Mitchell or Brian Thomas Jr., but I think grabbing Cooper DeJean, who's this like hybrid cornerback safety, every team could use a player like Cooper DeJean. So I think that it's a really strong pick for the Jags if they make that one. And then, hey, pick 18. I would be so stoked if this happens. The tight end Brock Bowers going to Cincinnati, fantasy football heaven. I wrote, it's a major need, and it's also one of the best players at the position or best players available. So that would be a dream scenario. He could also be, if they get rid of T. Higgins in a year, this could be the number 2 receiving option for Joe Burrow really, really quickly. At pick number 19, I got Fashanu, the offensive lineman here. Rams are rebuilding that O-line, and they're quietly stacking up for a Super Bowl run, I noted here. So I like getting Matthew Stafford protected, helping that run game. And, hey, that offense is already really good. Rams haven't had a first-round pick in forever, so I think this is a really nice pick for them. At pick number 20, I have the Eagles trading up for Terrion Arnold, the cornerback. That secondary was just atrocious last year. They were one of the worst teams defending the pass, and getting their guy, Terrion Arnold, probably shouldn't have fell this far, so that's why the Eagles move up a little bit to secure him. They hopped Miami here at 21. I gave Miami Dolphins Amarius Mims. They lost a few players in free agency this year, and I just think getting a guy that's super athletic and can kind of play a couple positions, the Dolphins are going to they're going to value that. So I like Amarius Mims. He's a bit of a project, but I think we've seen enough to be excited about him and his measurables and his combine. Pick 22, I had the Pittsburgh Steelers trade back with the Eagles, and they land Adonai Mitchell, the exciting receiver from Georgia and Texas. And no matter what you look at, whether it's his advanced metrics and data, or you look at his combine numbers, I think there's a lot to like with AD Mitchell, and he just needs to work on getting consistent and making sure that he's putting every effort into every play. And the Steelers, man, they have a knack for wide receivers. You put AD Mitchell and George Pickens out there, and you get a slot receiver, and we're cooking. So it could be a lot of fun for the Steelers offense. Pick 23, I have the Bills trade up. They get nervous about missing on one of these top end receivers. They move up for Brian Thomas Jr., who's going to operate and kind of fill that Gabe Davis sized hole. The Bills have Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel already out there at wide receiver. They need a big-bodied receiver that can, stretch the field and make some big plays on the boundary. So I love Brian Thomas in Buffalo. They have to move up to get him, but it's worth it. Pick 24. I do like if Brian Thomas is there, the Cowboys could maybe use a big receiver like Thomas, but I have them taking the top center available, Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon. Interior offensive line needs some work, I note, and it's not a sexy pick, but Cowboys usually make pretty good offensive lineman selections. At 25, I have the Packers taking Graham Barton. I really struggled with this one as a Packer fan. I kind of want him to take Chop Robinson. I think he's a really electric edge rusher, but the Packers filling in a starting right guard here with Barton. And, he's a versatile guy. He can maybe play other positions for them too if needed. But there's a huge hole at right guard for the Packers offense. One, you're protecting Jordan Love, and you're helping Josh Jacobs in the run game. So to me, that's a win-win. The Buccaneers, man, I looked at the Bucs roster and I struggled to find like a big glaring need, but I ended up settling on the edge rusher. They've lost a handful of guys from pass rushing over the last few years, and I just think stocking the cupboard there with Chop Robinson makes a lot of sense. The Cardinals, pick 27, I have them taking cornerback Nate Wiggins, who, by many, he is regarded as the top corner, but his weight is a little bit small. He's really fast. I like what he can do. I think the Cardinals would be a good fit for him. The Chargers, they traded down with Buffalo to pick 28, and they get Jerzon Newton. They need some run stuffing ability there on the defensive line. I like Newton quite a bit. Harbaugh loves these trench picks. I think it's a good fit. Pick 29, you have the Lions taking Kool-Aid McKinstry. They did bring in Carlton Davis and Amik Robertson, and Brian Branch is the nickel there, but I think getting a top-end talent like Kool-Aid McKinstry would be a nice win for the Lions secondary. The Ravens, they did lose a few guys in this offseason. I think just plugging in a left tackle, right tackle could be the move. I think they have an opening at right tackle right now, and he could move to left tackle if needed. The 49ers, they need a lot of help on the interior offensive line and getting Zach Frazier. He could be the starting center week one, or maybe he can compete for an interior guard spot. I did struggle with wanting to get a team to trade up for Bo Nix or Michael Penix, but I don't know if the draft capital is there for those teams to do so. And then I finished the draft with the Chiefs taking wide receiver Ladd McConkey. One, it's because Rashee Rice is probably going to miss a couple games. You also have to worry about him just going forward. And Travis Kelce is aging, so you have to protect both those positions. And getting a potential slot receiver, a zone eater like Ladd McConkey, man, I can just see him and Pat Mahomes riffing right away. So I like that spot there. And that's it. That's my top 32 first-round mock draft. I did post my 3.0 mock draft that I did a couple weeks ago, so you guys can check that out. But let me know what you guys think. This is just for fun. I'm not a draft expert or anything, but I do have a good amount of knowledge on some of these things. So I had fun doing it. You guys can check it out on thefantasyfellowship.com. Let me know what you think. Or if you guys have any, comments or different ideas, I'd be willing to hear them. So thank you guys so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your week. Peace.